All right, we are going to talk about the Secretariat call from yesterday, although I don't know when you're going to be watching this, so I guess I should say it was from April 23rd. Is that right?
That's right.
23rd, 2026. And the Secretariat started diving into Standard 7, which they have completely rejiggered. And they actually, because there were so many questions that were being submitted, they only really got kind of through 7.4. So like four, barely four elements. And yeah. So we're going to tackle a couple of them. We're going to tackle a little bit about 7.1 and 7.4, and then we might talk about sharing sites just for fun if we don't go on for too long. All right, Dr. Hayden, how would you like 7.1? What
Yeah.
do you think? Yeah.
Um, 7.1 was interesting because they did spend some time reminding everybody that the table that we're so used to seeing in 7.1 that comes from the GQ is not in there anymore. So they emphasize that it's not even the ISA data. So just pay really close attention in these new data tables in the DCI when they say internal survey. So what they're really looking for is what many of us do, which is end of year surveys of our classes, end of phase surveys, whatever it might be that's makes most sense to your context. And they are looking at GQ like items from your students. So just be aware of that. I think there's going to be a tension in schools. I know I'm going to feel it myself. How are we going to emphasize completion of the GQ and completion of our end of course evals and an end of year evaluation and ISAs and
Yeah.
status report updates? So the already feel of having a lot of survey fatigue of our students, I'm not sure it's going to get better. And I
Yeah.
do wonder what the downstream effects are of this change, but just so people are aware. And they also mentioned that if you call something a little different, you can change the nomenclature so it
Yeah.
matches your local kind of vernacular for your course structure, what you call maybe some different disciplines and domains. So just be aware of those. And as always, if you have regional campuses, you collect the data by regional campus, even if it doesn't say it in the table,
Yeah.
save yourself the headache of having to resurvey or recollect the data and just always collect the data at a regional campus level.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with you regarding the multiple evaluations that are going to happen. And I think when they get done with this, we're going to have to go through with a fine-tooth comb, basically all of the standards and say, okay, what have they kind of changed? It's not going to be on the GQ, not going to be on the ISA. So now
Mhm.
you've got to add this to your kind of end of year survey. So we're seeing one already that's like
Yep.
must do. And then what else is it going to be? So yeah, yep. Okay. And I also think I agree. They said how you could change like the, instead of saying biochemistry, maybe you say, I don't know, whatever. I'm also worried about that. I'm just worried about then if when we do that, when we actually change it,
Right.
what are they gonna say? And then they say, well, where's biochemistry taught then? Like I'm very worried about what they're gonna do with that.
Yeah, and the AAMC uses the GQ data for things that are not their intent is not for
Yeah.
LCME. It's just
Yeah.
we have been using it for accreditation. Their intent is for they have a lot of like political reasons, to be honest, of what
Yeah.
they utilize that data for. So if we are changing the language at 170 plus schools
Yeah.
and students don't recognize that they were taught biochemistry, even though that is exactly what they were taught because we're calling it something else.
Right.
We are going to cause ripple effects in integrity of the data. So,
Yeah,
very good point.
absolutely. Yep, absolutely. So, okay, then I'm going to go next to 7.4. Those are the two we're going to discuss today. And the reason why is when the new DCI came out and there was no 7.9 IP interprofessional education, I was like, oh my, yay! And then my excitement was short-lived when somebody told me, oh, it's just been put into 7.4. I was like, oh. But okay, here's the thing. So, what I think is good about how interprofessional education is in the DCI right now is they literally are telling you what three objectives to have for IPE. So, you know what? Have those three objectives. Don't have any other ones. Make
Yep.
your life easy. Have those three. Then here's the other thing. I get asked all the time by schools, what should the assessment look like? And I tell schools your assessment is not appropriate for this because you have to assess students actually in you have to observe them, how they're interacting with other health
Their
professionals.
collaboration
Their
skills.
collaboration
Yeah.
skills, exactly. So I
Hmm.
am the one that put in the question that got addressed. And so if you heard Barb and then she handed it off to the team to also answer, she said that first one about just understand the roles of other health professionals, that would lend itself to a didactic question. Awesome. And then she said the other two is about experiential and the collaboration. And so yes, your assessment cannot be do a self-reflection that maybe can be part
Right.
of it, but your assessment has to be somebody is observing them interact and
Yes.
collaborating on whatever it is, discharge planning, a code, whatever it is. So we heard it from them. It's true. Don't argue with me. Listen to me when I tell you your assessment is not correct. Okay, I can now put that to bed.
Oh,
All right.
good.
Hey, I feel relieved and somewhat vindicated. Although I hate to be vindicated by the LCME, but but
It's okay.
yeah,
It's
it's
okay.
okay. It's okay. It's okay.
It
Yeah.
can happen every now and then, very
All
rarely.
right. Okay. All right. We'll go with
Okay.
it. Yeah. All right. All right. Then the last thing we thought we would talk about is a little off topic, but from the secretary call, but it's still really important. And that's this whole concept of the shared sites, because we know so many schools are under pressure and
Very much.
there's not a lot of we're running out of clinical spaces. There's more and more medical schools, DO schools, MD schools, health profession students,
Yes.
right? We are
Yep.
we are all fighting for spaces. And so sometimes you have to share a site. Um, I'll start by saying we often will say that the gold standard is that if you have students from two different schools that they are on a separate team. We say that because it makes your life easy. Because what does the LCME care about? They care about the fact that the attending physicians or the residents, whoever's going to be grading and evaluating the students knows what are these students' objectives? What are these students being evaluated? What are these students' required clinical experiences, right? Like all the rules for the students. And if you've got like two or three students from different places, how is Dr. Jones going to keep that straight? And so to make it easy, if you have them on separate teams, you don't have to deal with that anymore.
Exactly.
However, that is not, the LCME doesn't say you have to do that. We say that's what you should do to make your life easy.
Yes.
Um, Dr. Hayden?
Yeah. So my approach, and our approach has been, it's really what risk are you comfortable with? So it's really about risk mitigation. Do you want to put yourself into a situation in which you are putting multiple learners, and it's really at the clerkship level. So they really focus on core clerkships because this question also comes up. Could you have a core clerkship student from one school and then like a fourth year sub-I on that? That's those are two different things, and they do have different sets of expectations in their level of supervision and what they're required to do. So that's acceptable. But when you have two clerks together from different schools, that's really where it gets muddy. And that's what we suggest over and over again is just
Yeah.
make your life easier and one less thing you have to have artifacts and evidence to prove. Even
Mhm.
if they aren't going to pull a preceptor, say, off the street, to come in and be interviewed by the LCME team, just imagine, like, how are they going to answer that? How are your clerkship directors going to answer that? How are you consistently going to ensure that preceptor X does know this from our schools, signs off on it, really understands that this MD student is different than this DO student, different than this other DO student, different than this other MD student. We have similar probably expectations across schools, but they are not the same. And so
Mhm.
it's really about risk mitigation and how much you're
Yes.
comfortable taking.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can commingle students on the exact same service. But then, as Dr. Hayden said, the burden of proof is then on you. It's on you then to very confidently state when they come. And when your students at lunch innocently say, "Oh, yeah, it's wonderful. There's students from other schools
Yeah.
that rotate with us all the time on our required clerkships," then they're going to ask you, how does Dr. Smith and Dr. Jones know what the objectives, blah, blah, blah are? And you better have answers and you better have proof.
Yeah.
And as if you're the associate dean, senior, you better know the dean for clinicals needs to know, all your clerkship directors need to know, and then your preceptors need to know, right? Because they're going to quadrangulate, right? Everybody's going to
Right,
need to
because they'll
know.
ask the residents too. So,
Yes,
they
yeah,
absolutely will ask the residents the
yeah,
question of, do you have students from other schools like on your team, and how do you manage that? How do you know? So the question's asked so many times, it does become harder to prove it
yeah,
consistently. Even if you are doing it, um, word of mouth doesn't count for much when it
No,
comes to getting ready for your LCME site visit. It has to be, yeah, that burden of proof, like a actual document and some way, again, if they were to come in and be interviewed, what would they say? And
yeah,
if you feel very uncomfortable that that would meet the muster, we would just recommend not to do that.
right, right. Yep. Well, that's what we've got for this month. It's actually been we had a brief hiatus, but we're back at it now. And if you're saying like who's Gold Strategies? I was Jenny Christner and I'm still the same person, but I'm now Jenny Gold. So it changed the company name and all that good stuff. So yeah.
Gold just fits so well, though. I
I
love it.
mean it really
And you
does.
said gold standard earlier, and I don't think it was intentional, but I loved it.
It wasn't. It
It really
wasn't, but kind of was.
kind of
Yep.
works really well. It
I
works
know,
really
right?
well. Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Okay.
Bye.